Have you ever felt discouraged by all the mighty works the great saints did in the past? Some would do heroic fasts, reach amazing levels of prayer, and even perform great miracles. Well, you are not alone. St Therese of Lisieux, at one point in her life, felt discouraged by all the great saints who came before. However, she took this discouragement to God in prayer and also searched the scriptures. The result of all her work is the Litte Way, a simpler way that will bring you closer to God. Hi, and welcome to another video. Whenever you think of a doctor of the church, you are most likely to think of one of those great saints who did all those massive things during their lifetimes. Saint Jerome, for example, he translated the Bible and taught all these things that people didn't really understand at the time earlier in the church. Saint Teresa of Avila, a very great mystic in the church who wrote all these fantastic books on the spiritual life. Then you have, of course, St. Therese of Lisieux, a young girl who entered the convent at the age of 15 and lived a very short life and died at the age of 24. She was just a normal, everyday person. Even the nuns she was with at the convent considered her unremarkable. In fact, they didn't even know what they would write on a tombstone. So, how could this young girl be considered a doctor of the church? This little girl, however, truly lived the gospel. And Pope Paul VI later on went on to say, she truly discovered the heart of the gospel. Born to parents, Louis Martin and Zili Guerin, both of her parents sought to enter into the religious life. However, they were not accepted and later married. Their family was that of a solid faith. Family prayers together, morning attendance at Mass, frequent reception of the Holy Communion, and retreats. Their whole life revolved around the liturgical year. Scrupulous regards for fasts and abstinences, pilgrimages, yet there was nothing bigoted about this family. St. Therese was to write at the age of 23, "How rapidly the sunny years of my childhood passed by. By what a sweet impression they left on my soul. Everything on earth smiled at me. I found flowers under each of my steps, and my happy disposition contributed to making my life pleasing." It is from a family truly dedicated to God that St. Therese is raised, and this probably explains the deep level of advancement in her spiritual life by the time she is 15 and enters the convent. Jesus, if the desire of loving you is so delightful, what will it be to possess and enjoy this love? How can a soul as imperfect as mine aspire to the possession of the plenitude of love? Why do you not reserve these great aspirations for great souls, for the eagles that soar in the heights? The desire for God is delightful. I think we can all relate the time when we first decided to follow God, when we had that small spark in our hearts to actually love Him and actually follow Him. Because at that time, there was that lightness, that joy within us. And St. Therese, however, is aware of her imperfection. And when you read the stories of all the great saints in the past, it's about people doing heroic acts, huge fasts, and all these massive deeds done for the love of God. Now, in France at the time, the Jansenist heresy was in swing. They believed to grow in holiness, one had to do hardcore and difficult things, painful penances and deprivations. If something was easy to do, these guys weren't interested. It had to be a monumental fast, a huge sacrifice, or nothing else. They believed God was all about justice, wrath, and punishment. It seems whenever you read these stories that only the hard things, only the difficult things are the only things that can bring you closer to God. But wait. If that is the case, what of the love and joy which has to do with the spiritual life? After all, Jesus came, that we might have life, and life to the full. So St Therese went off searching in the scriptures to find a simpler way with which she could bring herself closer to God. And the Litte Way was his answer to all of this. When she was explaining it, she would talk about two virtues which one needed to have. On the one hand, you needed to have humility, and on the other side, you had to have confidence to approach God, or what we could call trust. She explains it best in the following paragraph. I look upon myself as a weak bird. I am not an eagle, but I only have an eagle's eyes and heart. In spite of my extreme littleness, I still dare to gaze upon the divine Sun, the Sun of love, and my heart feels within it all the aspirations of an eagle. The little bird wills to fly towards the divine furnace of the Holy Trinity, but alas, the only thing it can do is raise its little wings. To fly is not within its power. St. Therese was successful in finding a simpler way, and therefore she calls it the Litte Way. Humility and confidence are key. She is humble when she acknowledges, I am not an eagle, but at the same time confident when she says, in spite of my extreme littleness, I dare to gaze upon the divine Sun. And this is all rooted in the gospel. Take, for example, the apostles, the ones who followed Jesus all day, every day. When their heads start to grow big, what does Jesus do? He takes a little child and brings it to them and tells them, unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, what does this mean? What does he mean when he says, unless you become like a child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven? Well, newborn babies and children are entirely dependent upon their parents, upon their mother. They cannot feed themselves, they cannot go to work, have a bank account, get some money, and get independent. They can't do that. They rely basically on their parents. All they do is cry, sleep, go to the bathroom, and repeat that all over again. You need to do all these things for them. And Jesus says that we must become like little children. And children actually keep it simple. They just simply rely on their parents and surrender everything to them. And this is what God desires of us to be with regards to Him. To surrender everything to Him with trust. The same way a child actually abandons itself to its mother, to its parents. This is a great foundation in which to build when it comes to the faith. St. Therese spent her final days bedridden with tuberculosis. And even then, she was a joy to everyone around her. Sister Marie of the Eucharist, Marie Guerin, wrote a letter to her parents saying, as far as her morale is concerned, it is always the same. Cheerfulness itself. She is always making those who come to visit her laugh. There are times when one would actually pay to be near her. And this is a person who is suffering a lot. A person who has been bedridden for weeks. She was still cheerful, even in the darkest moments of her life. And this is an example to us. Whatever we're going through, the difficulties which we face as people, to take the example of this very young saint who is able to be a beacon of light, even when things are very dark around her and everything seems lost.